What we're looking at behind me is the Woodrow Hoyle Dog Trot log cabin, which was built around 1850. It was moved here in 1985. Woodrow Hoyle was a friend of mine, and if I needed anything, rocks, logs, he was able to bring them to me in several days. The cabin itself is called a dog trot. Actually, it's 2 pens, 1 pen being a small structure, 2 pens, and the reason being when the sun came up, the dog was on this side. When the sun set, he'd get out of the sunshine and go to the shady side. Although this is just a story, actually the reason for the dog trot was the fact that you could heat a small area better than you could a large area. So at night you slept over here on this right side, and when you got up in the morning you banked the coals, you went to the other side where you did your living and your cooking during the daytime. So it was easier to heat a small area, like I said, than a large area. The actual purpose of the dog trot probably not only did it serve as a breezeway between, but also the animals did travel back and forth in between the 2 structures. When I found it, like I say, I'd known Woodrow Hoyle for a number of years, and I used him for many things that if I needed it, like I said, some stones, rock fireplace, or logs, he could always find them. And he told me about being born in the log cabin that he had. And so I went over to look at it, and there really wasn't but 1 structure. They had moved it, they had separated them, moved one on one side of the field or the pasture where he could store hay, where he wouldn't have to drive as far to where they were feeding the cows. So I just brought both sections back, put them back like they originally were, as he told me, and now we have a dog trot. Going in on the right side of the cabin, there's a piece of furniture, one I've never seen, and I've traveled through most museums east of the Mississippi. It's a double rope bunk bed, which can sleep 2 people. I've never understood why in the earlier days, since space in these small cabins was very important, that they didn't have more of them. You'll see a wild boar skin trunk by the front window, a small child's bed also on the front wall. By the fireplace is a bench settle. Settles basically were high back benches that you could pull up close to the fire, and 2 or 3 people could sit and warm, and it was used not only to get close to the fire but also help block out any draft coming from the back of the cabin. There's another rope bed on the left, could sleep probably mom and dad, and to the left of the fireplace is a Hart pine wardrobe with a large crown molding. I was at a flea market in Hillsville, Virginia, and looked at this particular piece and liked it, but the man wanted like $300 for it, and that was too much at the time. As I walked away, another man walked up and asked about it, and he said, well, it came from a little small town in Hickory, North Carolina. So I did a about face and went and paid for what he was asking for it. By the wardrobe is a little rack that could have been used for hanging herbs, possibly for hanging towels. And by the window, a small table with pumpkin whiskey, which probably is about 20 years old. I wouldn't recommend drinking this at any time. At the foot of the bed is a small blanket chest that we use to store things for a festival. By the fireplace, you'll see an early tin bed warmer, a yarn winder. To the right of the chair is candle wicking, which we demonstrate here at the Dog Trot during the festival each year. There's an early ironing board, which would generally be placed between 2 chairs for ironing, and then it can be hung back on the wall for storage. An unusual boot jack is also seen there beside the window, which was used to remove your boots. Now as we walk into the living area, which is the left side of the dog trot, there's a lot of different artifacts. There's a herb drying rack and a beautiful original pumpkin type step back cupboard. And on the step-back cupboard is an early cheese press, one of a type I've never seen before. It was used to press the whey from the cheese. The cupboard itself has a lot of stuff that you would have seen in a kitchen area, including pitchers. Some of them are salt glazed. Other type of kitchen utensils are found in the upper part. On the small table beside it is a 1700 meat grinder, and on the front wall is a large herb drying rack, which normally we take out during the festival. By the front window you'll see a sausage press or sausage stuffer that was used to stuff meat, which was ground up and mixed with different spices and herbs. They used the intestine of the pig to stuff the ground up sausage in. Beside it is a candle drying rack and several artifacts used to make and dip candles. The far corner by the fireplace is a 16 pane, as they would have said 16 light, corner cupboard. Great story. I measured the height of the ceiling. It was about 2-inch clearance. As I brought it in after I bought it, it would not make the turn into the room itself, but by removing everything down to the logs, I was able to make the turn, not realizing to stand up a corner cupboard takes an additional 2 to 3 inches. As I stood it up, it still wouldn't go, so I took the ceiling out. Then I tried it again, and it still locked about 2 inches. And after 4 hours of hard work, I got my trusty tool, the chainsaw, and I sawed the leg off so that it would go up. It took another 3 to 4 hours to repair everything that I had done to get it inside the building. Moving toward the fireplace, you'll see a crane and pot hanging on it, and a lot of pots on the hearth, along with a child's rocker, a wooden churn, and on the mantel, a small clock. As we move farther to the right, you'll see an early dry sink. The dry sink itself was used when you didn't have running water. You'd use the basin to carry water to wash your dishes and dry them out. Over the dry sink, you'll see a bucket with a spout that could be used in cheese making. You'll see candles that are dipped on the different sticks on the back wall. You'll see a cheese basket on the wall by the back window, and a real unusual piece called a cheese ditch. The cheese ditch actually is cut from a hollow log where they worked the cottage cheese and the whey into a bucket which was strained and used to make the cottage cheese, which later you added salt and pepper, spices, etc. A cheese bench is on the back wall with bucket used to press and strain the cheese itself to separate it from the whey. A cheese curd knife, metal, is noticed on the back wall. I have a very similar one that's wooden in the stockade. You'll see a number of different things that was used in making cheese also on the back walls. In the back corner, you'll see a meat cupboard with actual bacon that's probably over 30 years old. The screen wire was used to keep the flies out. There's some crocks, pies, and other utensils noted inside. By the meat cupboard is another cheese press using rope to compress the cheese. And basically the table that you see, we try to demonstrate in different cabins different types of tableware. In this case, we use trineware, which actually is everything is made of wood, including the bowls, utensils, etc. In other cabins, we not only have trineware, but we show pottery in some, redware, china, ironstone, pewter, and tinware.